Welcome back, friends of the World Wide Web. This is Amelia Naomi. I'm very excited for this video because I'm going back to the basics. In my last video, I showed how I draw cats, but afterwards I showed it to my husband, who is not a digital illustrator. I realized that my previous video was not helpful for those that are not familiar with digital art or the software. I know that there are plenty of videos on YouTube from extremely talented creators about this very same topic. However, I feel that I can give some insight, being that I started learning digital art with a very steep learning curve. It is daunting and sometimes frustrating to learn something new, but when life gives us lemons, we should draw them. There's going to be a lot of information in this video, so please feel free to pause or slow down the video, or only take one section at a time. I will be adding timestamps to help you out. Now let's fire up our tablets and get started. The software we will be using is Procreate. Most digital art programs operate almost the same way, but in my opinion, Procreate is one of the best out there. For a one-time purchase of $10 US, you will have access to a software that is constantly updating with fantastic features like 3D painting and animation tools, a library of brushes that are provided, and thousands you can download for free online, and thousands of tutorials available on YouTube to learn new techniques. If you're not interested in Procreate, I also suggest ArtRage, especially if you are looking to make traditional looking art digitally. Although I will give you a warning, if you're using a different program from Procreate, this tutorial may not help you 100%. You're gonna open up Procreate, and the first thing you will see is your gallery. This is where all of your art pieces will be stored and organized. In the top right corner, there is a plus sign where you can open a new file. It will give you several options of sizes you may need for your project. You'll choose the size you need and you will be taken to a blank canvas to start painting. But before we do that, maybe your gallery looks a little messy like mine and you want to clean it up a bit. You will click the select button in the right corner and you will see the options to share, duplicate, or delete files that you select. But there's more I can do. Let's say I have a series I want to keep together. I can select a few, drag them to another file that I want to be included, and it will form a stack that keeps everything tidy. Next, we have the import button. It imports files from your iPad, Dropbox, or Google Drive that you want to edit, although honestly, I've hardly ever used this tool. And photo, which is the same as import, but you can import photos from your gallery. We are going to go back to the plus sign in our corner, select the size we want for the canvas, and start our piece. Your canvas is open and we have a lot of tools to look over. It can be a little intimidating, but we'll get through this. In the top right corner, there's a colored circle where all the color palettes are. When you open it, you can see the buttons at the bottom of the panel that are called Disc, Classic, Harmony, and Value. These are all the different ways that you can view and navigate the color wheel. In each one, you can adjust how light or dark the color is, as well as the shades and hues. I personally prefer the Harmony color wheel because it's easier to work with and it will show you a complementary color as well. The only button I didn't mention is palettes. This is where all of your color palettes are held and where you can create a new one. I want to make a new palette for this piece, so I will press the plus sign in the corner again and I will add an empty palette. We will go back to the color wheel, select a color we like, and tap one of the empty boxes to add the color. If you realize there's a color you do not like after all, you do a long press and the option to delete will pop up. The next tool we are looking at is layers. Layers are a bit tricky and will take a lot of practice to feel comfortable with. They are a necessary evil for digital art and can really make the most patient of people turn into ogres. You will see there is a layer 1 and a background color option. The background color layer does not really do anything except change the color of the canvas. You can also uncheck the layer in your layers panel to not see the canvas or background color. I'm going to make my canvas orange right now. To add a new layer, you will press again the plus button in the corner of the table. To delete or duplicate a layer, you will swipe left on the layer and the options will appear next to it. We will be returning to the layers a lot throughout the video as we go on to review and get more comfortable. We are going to move on to the little paintbrush here that opens your brush library. I'm a brush hoarder and never can have enough. A few of the brushes I've downloaded I may want to tweak to suit my needs. If I want to edit my brush, I double tap the brush and will be taken to the Brush Studio. In the Brush Studio, you can transform your brush in numerous ways. For example, you can make the lines more stable, make the stroke look wet, grainy, and much more. I really suggest playing around with one of your brushes in the Brush Studio to make a whole new brush. You're probably going to hear brush a lot in this video. I'm very sorry. If I'm feeling lazy or I find a one-of-a-kind brush online to download, I can upload the brush by pressing the import button at the top right corner of the Brush Studio. You can connect to your Dropbox, Google Drive, or downloads from your tablet. Select the brush you want to import and it will show up automatically in your library. Super easy and addicting. I'm scrolling to find an acrylic brush, but the brush is too small when I use it. To adjust the size and opacity, I'm going to the bar on the left side of the screen. The top bar is to adjust the size and the bottom is for opacity. This toolbar also contains my very best friends, the undo and redo buttons. You will seriously love how easy it is to fix a mistake that would normally cause a full-on meltdown if this were paint. I almost forgot to mention the erase button and blending button for the top right toolbar, although they are pretty self-explanatory. They work the same way as the brushes. When you press the blend or erase button, it will show the brush library for you to select a brush to use for blending or erasing. We are going to start our drawing and learning the tools on the left corner too. Let's add a new layer with the plus button on the layer panel. You will then go to the button on the left side that looks like an S. This is the Selections tool. There are buttons for shapes that you can make to make your art more crisp and clean when needed. To make my first pot, I'm going to select the rectangle and drag to the size I want. I will then fill it with the color I chose by dragging the color on the shape. I want to add a second pot. So while you're on the selections tool, you're going to press the copy and paste button and it will copy and paste your rectangle to a new layer. We are moving on to the transform button on the left side that looks like a mouse. This tool is good for editing without affecting the rest of the piece. With the transform tool, I'm going to move my second pot over to this side. I can flip it vertically and horizontally and rotate it. Two rectangles are kind of boring, so while I'm on the layer of my second pot, I'm going to play around with the transform button some more. You will see the buttons freeform, uniform, distort, and warp. These tools are also here to help you edit selected items. The uniform button keeps everything aligned and keeps the balance of the shape. It is good for decreasing and increasing the size of the item. The distort button is best for when you want to change the shape in a way that distorts the angles and the shape while keeping straight lines. The warp button is best described as the distort button on 11. You can use it to completely change the original shape to something else entirely. We are going to use the distort button on the second pot to make a new shape. Just select the point and drag them to your liking. Go to your first pot in the layers panel and try to make a rounder shape with the warp button. Now that the pots are in nice shapes, we're going to the layers panel again and merging our two layers to one. When you double tap the layer, a list of extra tools appear that you can use. You can invert the colors on your layer, merge the layer down to combine it with the layer below, rename it, and much more. I would suggest experimenting with the doodle on a layer and see how each button works. Double tap the top layer and press the merge down button. Now the pots are together in one layer. We are going to use the rename button to keep things organized. It is a good habit to keep your layers tidy. These pots look a little plain, so we're going to select the layer and go to our brushes. I want you to go wild with decorating with all of your brushes. With the layer selected, you can decorate without coloring outside the lines. Another tip to help is if you want your lines to be extra straight, you will draw and then hold for a second at the end of the line and it will snap straight. The pots are decorated and I want to add some lemon trees. Let's add another layer and name it trees. I kind of forgot what lemon trees look like. To help me out with this dilemma, I will press the button on the left corner with the wrench. This is the Actions panel. I will explain the panel some more later in the video, but for now, let's press the Add button and select some reference photos from your gallery. If you want them out of your way of your drawing, you can use the Transform tool and shrink it down with the Uniform tool and drag it like this. Back to those pesky layers again, we see each photo has its own layer. Double press, merge them down, and rename them to reference photos and add another layer named trees. I have some greens in my palette, but I think I want the exact shade of green from the photo. To achieve that, I will do a long press on the area of the photo with the color I want, and it will automatically be put on my brush. I'm starting to draw my tree, but the stem is on top of the pot and looks bad. Thankfully with the layers, I can drag the tree layer down below the pot and fix this easily. I'm leaving it up to you to draw your majestic lemon trees. I'm now going back to drag and drop the color into each leaf from the corner. Make sure that there are no unclosed lines, as the whole layer will fill up with the color instead of just the leaf. Don't panic though, we always have our best friend, the undo button. My trees are lacking texture, so like what I did with the pots, I will select the layer, use the brushes I want, and add texture and different colors to the leaves. My leaves feel a little messy, so sometimes I like to use the eraser tool to clean up the edges. This piece is finally coming to life, but we are missing the fruit of our efforts. Add another layer and rename it to whatever you please. We are going to practice some more with the selection and transform tools by choosing the circle button and using the tools mentioned earlier to alter the shape, resize, or move. It's a bit of a hassle to draw every single lemon by hand. You're going to go to the copy and paste button and duplicate your lemon as many times as you want. Each duplicate will be on its own layer and right behind the original one that you selected. So you just have to select and drag the fruit to where you want on the tree. Sometimes dragging changes the size too, which can be a little annoying, but when you get to where you want the lemon to be, you can fix the size again. When all the lemons are placed where you want, double tap again on each layer and merge down till they are all on one layer again. For the next tree, I'm using the circle tool again. All the fruit are added, so let's check that all the fruit are on one layer so we can add texture. Like we did with the trees, we will press the selections tool on the fruit layer and paint to our heart's content. I'm going to merge down the fruits, trees, and pots layered together. I no longer need the reference photo, so I will uncheck that layer and have it disappear or delete the layer entirely. We are nearly finished with our piece, but there's still a few things to learn in the top left toolbar. We have yet to mention the adjustments tool with the magic wand icon. This is where you will go if you want to tweak your final piece or layer with filters or color adjustments. Most of these tools, you'll see a percentage in the middle. For example, in the blurs, if you want to adjust the level of blurriness, you can slide your finger left and right to find the amount you like. Above the blurring filters, we can adjust the colors under hue, saturation, brightness, and color balance. When you use the color balance, you will see the little sun over here on the right of the panel. This is where you can choose whether to alter the colors of midtones, highlights, or shadows. I really like using this tool after I'm finished drawing. Feel free to add some touch-ups to your drawing as you get used to the tools. I want to see if a gradient will look good for the background. First off, check you are on your background layer underneath all of your work. Then I will go to the Adjustments button again. Click Gradient Map and choose from the selection of gradients they offer in the panel. Much like the blur, you can also swipe right to left to adjust how the gradient looks on your layer. If I want to remove one of the colors, I do a long press on the square in the gradient map and the option will come up to delete. If you want to change one of the gradients a little, you can tap one of the squares and the color wheel will pop up for you to choose a different color. In case you do not like any of the gradients offered, it may be better to make your own. You will press the plus sign in the corner of the gradient library, revealing your new gradient. You can do what I mentioned earlier about selecting colors. You can tap the square or drag the squares side to side. You can also add more squares by tapping once along the bar. I highly recommend using all the tools we learned throughout this video to make a unique background for your piece. So we are going to conclude this tutorial with another look at the Actions tool, the one with the little wrench. We touched on this tool briefly when we imported our lemon tree references. We were on the Add button where you can insert photos, text, and files. But we are going to move on to the Canvas button. Here we can edit the canvas like cropping and flipping it. There's also a drawing guide that you can turn on, which will add a grid to your canvas if you prefer drawing with grids. There are other buttons to help with animation, but that is for another video. After the Canvas button, there is the Share button where you can export your art in different file formats. The piece is finished and I'm really excited to see the fruits of my labor. One of the coolest ways to do that is to go to the Video button in the Actions toolbar and export a time-lapse video to see before my eyes how I've improved and learned. If you want all of your artwork to be recorded, make sure to have your time-lapse recording set on like mine here. We also have the Preferences button that will show you a list of tools to make the software more enjoyable. For instance, the toolbars can be moved to benefit left-handed people. You can also make the interface light or dark, and you can adjust the sensitivity of your stylus or Apple Pencil in Procreate. I know that was a ton of information, but this is the first step to making masterpieces in Procreate. If you have any questions, please comment below and I will help you out. Also, if you liked the video, feel free to leave a like. Thank you so much for joining me in this beginner's Procreate video. I hope it helped even a little bit. If you made your own piece from this video, I would be thrilled to see it. You can send it to my email below, and I can even share your masterpiece if you'd like to. Till next time, shalom.